It is the elusive, perfect sound that is chased by many podcasters and broadcasters. And it all stems from public radio. Specifically, that is NPR. But before you think that this all just comes down to a microphone choice, there's a lot more to it than that. And it isn't as simple as you might think. But we can also talk about some of the intangibles of their audio that make it sound good, that go far beyond the gear and the production. All this just making the process of getting that classic NPR sound even harder. But I will say it is achievable. So let's get the easy stuff out of the way, specifically your microphone choice. Now, surprisingly, this isn't going to make as much of a difference as you might think. Now, according to one story from like 11 years ago, the hosts of NPR all used U87s. Nowadays, though, there's a little bit more variety to that, despite the U87 still being their main go-to. As far as I can tell, though, the production of the signal that comes out of their microphones has stayed basically the same. For your mic selection, a condenser microphone is needed. Something with a full body and something you like on your voice. I'm going with the NT2A here. That's basically it. Now, before we move on, I really need to stress something. We are recreating a broadcast sound here. Treatment on your walls is necessary. This isn't going to work if you have a reverberant or lively room. It's just not very broadcast. How snooty of me. Okay, and I know this is the point that people are going to start to get scared. This usually involves EQ, compression, de-essing, all the things that might just go over your head, because all that stuff takes a long time to learn. But you see here, the NPR style only requires one single thing. It's just a roll-off. But yeah, there's a bit of a catch there. You see, they use a U87AI, as mentioned, as well as the mechanical switch on the microphone for that roll-off. No big deal, right? Oh, about that roll-off. You see, the U87AI has this roll-off. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I've not been calling it a high-pass filter. Now, there's very little about that roll-off online. No one really talks about it. Not even the degree of the roll-off is available anywhere, meaning you have to do the math yourself. Now, for the record, it's about 3 dB per octave. Okay then. Well, we've got some questions here then. First, why is this the high-pass filter on the U87? Well, that is an interesting story. Remember, no one is talking about the roll-off online. Even Neumann themselves have nothing that I could find about this roll-off and the why of it, even though it's a predominant feature on one of the most famous microphones of all time. And the reason for that is because the roll-off isn't really a necessity these days. You see, back when the U87 was released, one of the things that was all the rage was trying to get rid of proximity effect. Think the Electro Voice and their variable D technology, which was released the same year in 1968. And this roll-off, it was Neumann's solve for that issue. And that's far less of an issue these days, which is why I'm guessing no one really talks about it or even understands what it is. And engineers just say, "Ew, don't use that." Now, the next question is, can it be duplicated in software if we don't have a U87 AI laying around? And the answer to that is, yeah. So what I've loaded up is a parametric equalizer. It comes standard with Adobe Audition. And you can do this with any parametric equalizer. You just have to copy down the settings. So let's open it up and see what it's doing to the audio. Here you go. You can see that it starts at about 1,000 and it rolls off to just past 50, just like the U87 AI. Now, how I kind of set this up is I made sure that at 200 hertz, you'll see here it's right about -5 dB. And that's what I wanted to do, kind of right in the middle. I just wanted to make sure it was right around the same spot. And you can see that slight curve in the line as it goes from 1,000 down to just below 50. Now, I'm not able to turn this on and off while I'm recording just because of the way Adobe Audition works, but I will be doing it in post so you can hear how this sounds. And to get the full effect, I'm going to have to stay still so you can hear that low end just rolling off and what it does to my voice. And remember, there's nothing else happening to my voice while I'm doing this. All I'm going to be doing is gaining it up in post. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how this really works. First of all, when you strip away a lot of the lower frequencies, you can gain up the audio quite a bit. And if you remember the video I did with the U87AI versus the Rode NT1, very cool set of videos if you missed them. Well, in that video, we also talked about the natural EQ of our ears and how that EQ boosts the mids, making us more sensitive to the frequencies between 2K and 5K. So when you strip away a lot of those lower frequencies and we boost the gain on the higher frequencies, it allows the human brain to pick up that audio and understand it easier, even when there is competing noise. Couple that with a non-offensive mic and you have a recipe for plausible success. I should caution you here. Make sure the mic you're using is not also boosted in those regions, or you might be creating audio that's not just easy to hear, but it's also uncomfortable to listen to. This is why the U87 is the choice for NPR, natural and flat throughout with just a boost in the airy frequencies. Also, why this NT2A was a good choice for me here. But you're also going to notice as I get closer to the mic with that curve on, that boomy proximity effect isn't as overpowering. Oh, it's still there. You can hear the change as I get in there. And that's because it isn't an aggressive roll-off. It's 3 dB per octave. So you do still have some of those lower frequencies. They're just a bit more muted. Meaning instead of all that mud when getting close to the mic, you just end up with a fuller sound while maintaining clarity. Again, audio that will cut through, especially when listening somewhere like a car with a lot of low rumble. Now, I do also have to point out, you might have to EQ some of your S's out when you start boosting these frequencies and really turning the volume up on them. So keep that in mind when you're doing your post-production. Okay, maybe you're sitting there with this and it isn't sounding right, or maybe it's just a bit off. There are some intangibles we need to talk about here. When listening to something like NPR, some of those intangibles make it feel like it is part of the audio quality when it is very much something else. A good example of this is delivery. NPR differs from a lot of other radio stations for several reasons, but the biggest is they don't subscribe to the U plus 10% theory. So what is that theory? Well, it's prevalent in many types of media these days, even YouTube. Look at Mr. Beast when he intros a video.
I am sitting on $5 million in cash. I somehow have unrestricted access to all of the Great Pyramids of Egypt.
I hate to tell you, that's not his natural speaking voice. And commercial radio is specifically bad at this. Coming up at the top of the hour, we've got Metallica, followed by Soundgarden. And the whole purpose of this theory is that it engages more and gives the listener energy, something that is believed listeners listen to radio for, to wake them up and energize them for the day. Even news has this effect with their hosts.
I'm Bill McNeil, and that's the McNeil Perspective.
Now, NPR goes by a different concept. It's called conversational. What is that? Well, it's literally just code for how you would normally talk about something that you're passionate about. And let me tell you, it can be really hard to pin this down. Which leads us to the second intangible, and that is experience. And yes, this is a tough one to hear, but there is a skill set to doing what they do. And it is a skill that can only be acquired by doing. Here's a great example if you can't wrap your head around it. I use power tools all the time. Kind of a handy guy. I take for granted the experience I have with something like, say, a drill. To me, it's easy. But if you hand that drill to my son, he literally and awkwardly struggles with it. And that skill just came from doing. Meaning, if you're looking to get that delivery and the sound, the only thing you can do is, well, do it. Keep trying and keep honestly evaluating yourself. And in the end, sadly, I think that's all the NPR sound really comes down to. Sure, that roll-off to remove the proximity and have the signal jump out while listening in traffic is great. The acoustically dull rooms for zero reverb helps. But a lot of what we chase is more the skill of the delivery, the nuance of conversational. Again, though, in the beginning, I did say this was achievable. And it really is. But with everything broadcasting, it takes practice. It takes do. And as with the drill, one day you're just going to understand that you know how to do it. But you probably won't be able to pinpoint any specific reason of why. you know how to do it. Let me know if any of this was helpful in any way down below. Cheers, guys, and thanks for watching.